Welcome to another episode of the Trusted Advisor podcast and video series powered by the Retail Solutions Providers Association. Our goal on the pod is to accelerate the success of today's and tomorrow's leaders in the retail IT industry. I'm Jim Roddy, back with you again. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we talk with leaders in the retail IT channel and seek advice from them. And in this episode, we'll talk about actions VARs and ISVs can take to provide stickier solutions to their merchants. Our guest today is Ansley Hoke, the Senior Vice President of the Integrated Solutions Group at ScanSource. Ansley has over 25 years experience in the retail IT channel, the past 23 with ScanSource. Ansley has served ScanSource as SVP of Worldwide Marketing, and she's held leadership roles on the sales and supplier teams. Ansley has received several awards, including being recognized as a Channel Chief by CRN and receiving a Channel Marketing Excellence Icon Award from the Channel Marketing Association. Ansley, I always enjoy talking with you. It is great to have you as a guest on the Trusted Advisor.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. It's always a pleasure chatting with you about new and different things happening in technology.
Right back at you. And there's always something new and exciting happening in technology. It's just up to us. Are we paying attention to it? Are we doing something about it? And so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say today about technology and leadership. And so that's what we're going to do. Our interview is going to be in two parts. First, talking about stickier solutions for VARs and ISVs. And then, Ansley, hopefully we can talk about your leadership journey and lessons you've learned along the way. So first, can you share with us, to give some folks some background, some context, can you share some details about the formation of the new Integrated Solutions and Services Group at ScanSource? It looks to me like it's a model that's both services first and also geared toward generating recurring revenue. So can you share the backstory to the group, and then also how VARs and ISVs have embraced the group since you first launched it in 2024?
Oh, absolutely. So, Jim, you have been a great partner of ScanSource's for many, many years, and we have always looked at solution selling and how we educate the channel more on the different opportunities from vertical markets to different solutions. So the Integrated Solutions Group, quite frankly, was formed to make sure that we formalize that a little bit better for the channel community, meaning that technology is fast changing over the years, and this group was dedicated to make sure that we were able to more clearly showcase all of the different software, services, and recurring revenue opportunities that we have for our VAR community in the technology segments that we serve. So again, ISG was built, it's now been a little over a year ago, to make sure that we are pulling through for our VARs even more technology devices, software, services, and even recurring revenue from things that overlay on top of it, such as wireless activations, different pieces like that. And overall, it has been received very, very well. We have gotten a lot of great feedback and tons of leads from our VAR community over this past year in trying out and understanding a little bit better how they can utilize the ScanSource resources and technology partners to be able to be additive and get additional margin opportunities in their end customers.
Got it. Thank you for that. And like you alluded to, like I've been, I guess, shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow with the ScanSource team for almost or over 25 years, I guess we can say at this point. And that always seems to be a thing, is helping steer these VARs from what they're currently offering to adding more in terms of adjacent technologies. And now the big thing is also having recurring revenues. That kind of the big driving force behind this is, that VARs can't sit still. If they do, the world's going to pass them by. Is that really the driver behind setting this up and having it in an easier to navigate fashion with all the new technologies and solutions?
Really is. That was well said. Truly, yes. ISG, it really was last year. We did have an acquisition of Advantix, and that is for our wireless connectivity to make a more formalized program to make it easier for our VAR channel to be additive on a lot of the WAN-enabled products, not only in point of sale and payments in the retail area, but also from security, networking, you name it, be able to easily add recurring revenue in wireless activations and connectivity within the verticals that they serve. And really having that easy button by using distribution and the channel to be able to scale that is honestly what ISG charter is. And then also from the Advantix acquisition, but also our POS portal acquisition from years gone by, also rolling into this ISG or the integrated solutions grouping of offerings with more of the hands-on deployment services for scalability, not only for payments and key injections, but also the kitting, customization and hot swap of warranty repair, making sure that we are understanding and managing our partners' inventory for very customized opportunities to be able for our partners to be able to scale even better. So also with the proliferation of even more from a software perspective, I know every time I come to retail now, we're always talking about the ISV landscape, especially from a fintech perspective and a point of sale in retail, making sure that ISG within ScanSource can make that easy for a bundling for the ISV and the VAR, whether they're partnering or whatnot, making sure that all of those things are loaded on any kinds of device that they might need for their deployment.
No, thank you for that, Ansley. And I was actually just talking to an RSP member, ISV, this morning about new technologies. And the great thing is for resellers, they don't have to build it from a blank sheet of paper, right? They can lean on their ISVs, they can lean on their vendors, they can lean on their distributors, right, in order to make things happen. And that's what it seems like this is all about. So thank you for that background. Let's talk sticky solutions. So I want to hear what's working best for your partners. And maybe if you can share like the top 2 or 3 actions that you see ScanSource VARs and ISVs taking to provide stickier solutions. So if you had to list 3, like what would be the first action that you'd want to talk about stickier solutions provided by your community?
Well, I would definitely give the advice for all of our VARs, and quite frankly, what we hear from a lot of our channel community back to us is, hey, help us more, since devices, everything that we sell and a lot of what the VARs purchase from us are connected devices that need some sort of network to be able to make them work. That is where we start. We are seeing a lot of sticky services on being able to be additive to our VARs in the network, whether it be the Wi-Fi network, the cabled network within the building, Wi-Fi, if it's private cellular network, if it is WAN enabled cellular network, you name it. Really starting with that with our partners. A lot of our partners already have the network and the devices that are a part of that connected network and solution. But if not, having those partnerships and the ability to utilize a distribution partner like ScanSource to be able to scale that, educate. You can either partner, you can do a wholesale type of sales motion with connectivity, or you can do more of a retail or commission model. It's dependent upon what the end user is wanting, how comfortable the VAR is at getting more more deeply connected in the network or not. And I will just say that we have seen that sticky service really helps our VAR partners stay in the core of that particular solution, quite honestly, especially in retail. I mean, retail even more so. Now we're seeing that, a lot of the end customers want that whole connected device. A lot of the, hey, bringing your own device into a store, a location, going outside of the 4 walls with hospitality and having that connectivity not only in the 4 walls, but outside as well, especially with delivery models too within the retail space, is always a great way to help VARs be sticky. And we can give many, many different offerings and consumption models in that space. So that would be the number 1 first route that I would suggests that the VARs really utilize their partnerships.
Got it. Thank you for that. So, connected devices. So, before we talk about the next action, I'm thinking, and just knowing the RSPA membership, we have a lot of folks that their core, like they were cash register guys, right? And then they moved into point of sale, and then everything that goes that is connected to that. But maybe for some folks listening, like, you said the cable networking, the Wi-Fi, the WAN, that might be a couple steps outside of what they currently provide. So I guess what would you say to somebody who's VAR, they're doing well, they're successful, but they're like, boy, that would be a big step for me to start getting into that. I don't have a giant staff, right? I'm limited with my resources. Maybe I should just go add some other services to what I'm doing. What would be your guidance for them in terms of to be able to get into connected devices? How high is the barrier for them to integrate this into their offering?
I would say it's as high or low as they would like for it to be. How much time they have to dedicate to doing it themselves versus utilizing their network and utilizing themselves more as a lead source to be able to, hey, come to your trusted partner ScanSource and we can help be that extension for them in the way of wireless activations, being able to get those partnerships if they don't want to necessarily go all in and get additional staff to be able to configure and quote that piece of it. We have those teams within the integrated solutions group that can help them do that. Easier entry. Once you get a couple of wins under you from that extending out into the network and the connectivity, then the VAR can decide, hey, I want to do some more on my own, or keep going like we're going and get more in the way of leads. But I'm telling you, if I think that's a great way that they can really keep that pulse on their end customer on what they're needing, because a lot can be seen from how many and types of devices are connected to that network. So we can help.
Thank you for that.
Use your resources. That's what I always tell my kids too. Utilize the resources. You don't have to be the one that does everything. Just know where they are. And we at ScanSource can help guide them in different paths.
Yeah, you don't have to start with a blank sheet of paper and say, I got to figure this out on my own. So what your answer makes me think of two RSPA members that I've heard from. One was at Retail Now, Anthony Presley from TimeForge was talking about partnerships. And he had a really good thing where he said, if it's core to you, consider yourself a reseller of it. But if it's not core, maybe you should take on more of that referral model where somebody, like you're doing the sales, but somebody else is doing a lot of the other work. And then also think about almost in the name of the reseller, but they said before they were like, hey, I'm a POS person, I don't do Wi-Fi. And then he said some other IT person came in, they offered the Wi-Fi. Then next thing you know, they were pitching them on the point of sale and the payments, and their company got moved out of there. It was a restaurant reseller. And he's like, I will never let that happen again. So even if you're listening to this and you're like, do I really want to get into these things? It could be a really good defensive position for you as well, in addition to adding recurring revenue. All right, so connected devices, that was one sticky solution. What's another action that results in stickier solutions that you've learned from your partner network has been effective?
Well, the one thing that we do a lot of different studies, external studies of the market at ScanSource, and we do a lot of polling of our different types of partners. And one thing that is quite apparent is that aggregation of IT here recently, where that seamless connected experience is very, very high for that end customer. And as I see that, what partners are saying, especially in retail, that you maybe used to only be focused in on payments or only on barcode scanning or point of sale. Now we're seeing that end customer wants the payments, the point of sale, the scanning. They want the networking, the reporting, that single cohesive experience. So what in unifying these types of critical systems, a lot of our partners are looking for services, deployment services, monitoring services, mobile device management services, making sure activation services, cellular activation services. So utilizing and outsourcing some of those to a distribution partner or even to another partner is key on helping them scale that, especially when the end customer is wanting that as their overall experience, and VARs don't want the end user shopping for others. They can be that sole provider of it by outsourcing that. So I would just say there are a lot of partnerships out there within our solutions group, integrated solutions group. We do have a deployment services, several that can help depending on what kind of technologies that a partner is trying to get that seamless connected experience, and making sure that the use of data in those solutions is also helping the end users. That's another thing that we're hearing a lot of from the monitoring side of it. It used to be, hey, we just needed to get the devices, kit them, and ship them out. Now it's more of making sure the right kind of software's on there. Hey, do we have enough from the monitoring? Can we actually help our partners with getting nice reports out and helping them be stickier in showing analytics and things to the end customers within whatever vertical they're looking at? That's another piece that is very helpful, and we can definitely help in that area. So that's another sticky thing, making sure that you stay on top of that. I will say that's where a lot of questions come back to us from an AI perspective, like, hey, AI software. Oftentimes, especially in the retail segment, what we're finding is a lot of the end users there are just wanting our partners to help them get their data clean, make sure that we can potentially use AI in helping getting that data more organized for external use. So I really stress to our partners out there listening that AI is not just utilized for, external end user customers consumption. It's oftentimes you can make a lot of money in usage on making sure that you're using AI on the data, because garbage in, garbage out, AI is only as good as the data that it's pulling from to be able to help in getting to buy more or sell more. So anyway, just a few little tidbits there on another sticky subject that we're looking at, that integration of IT, those deployment services, and software services on making sure.
Got it. So thank you for that. Well, you and I will have to talk offline because the RSPA is putting together an AI advisory group. And so we want to get, some of our, top thinkers and the top experienced folks in AI to help build out some, I don't know if roadmap, that sounds like a little bit too prescriptive, but at least showing the different paths for data monetization or AI from a recurring revenue standpoint, as opposed to just you type this thing into Chat GPT or Gemini or something and you get, and the internal operations or something like that, like really at the higher level. And that, I guess, ties in with, when you're talking about IT aggregation, it just made me think, to be a total solution provider, the goal is still the same, but boy, does that get more complex every year that goes by. But that's why the total solution provider doesn't have to be an expert in everything. They almost have to act more as a general contractor to coordinate everything and all their different suppliers. So I guess, do you have that same take in terms of, to be the aggregator, it's not be all things to all people that you're providing yourself, it's being more that general contractor, the conductor of an orchestra?
Correct. That is absolutely key. I mean, we have said, hey, we can help you be that contractor, because you don't have to be all things to all people. It's hard to keep up. Technology is changing so quickly. And, you might think that you're on top of it one quarter, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, this has come out. You have to definitely utilize a lot of the educational pieces that we have been working on to help in that area, as well as making sure that you're staying on top of it and utilizing the channel to help you do that. So we do have a lot of different resources that can be used by our VARs on helping from a prioritization. That's why I say in the channel and being a distributor, it's always interesting just being in the middle and seeing all the different things that different suppliers are doing, different kinds of VARs and partners and agents are participating in. And the one thing, I think the hardest thing in the channel is making sure that you are prioritizing what will actually move the needle and focusing in on that and going all in there. We can help. I know our VARs are all, have different skill sets and different technologies they serve. And I would just say utilize those resources and ask questions.
Amen. Amen. And just so you bring it up, the unique perspective that distributors have. So I've been in this industry since 1998 with first a trade magazine and then the last 6 years with the RSPA. And that's why I think it's always fun to talk to the distributors because it's been that neutral position, if I can say, where you do get to see inside of a lot of reseller businesses or VAR businesses or MSPs or ISVs, throwing all the different acronyms around there. But it's an interesting perspective. So that's, again, folks, lean on your distributor because they can certainly help you with that. All right. So you've talked about connected devices, IT aggregation. Is there one final action that we'd put in the top 3 for helping VARs and ISVs create stickier solutions?
Correct. I would say really just adding at least one new unique offering to help differentiate within the technology you serve. I'm not saying go way over here to some wild adjacent technology just to have something new, but within the different technologies that a VAR serves today, just adding one unique item on there. And I will say, I'm going to actually give a little plug for under ISG, we have just talked about launching our new division, ScanSource Launch Point. And this Launch Point division is really bringing in more of those cutting edge adjacencies to different technologies, particularly different verticals within those technologies. So for retail, it might be the hospitality side of retail, and bringing in maybe an AI or a new type of robotics or new different types of hardware, software, and services that we can offer up to help partners be a little stickier within their current technology stack. So I would say be open to that. One of the easiest things to be additive with is software, quite frankly, within the pieces. And we have added and are continuing to add within our Launch Point division of ISG even more new and cutting edge offers that won't be such a huge stretch. And I know I'm talking more retail in the retail vertical market by engaging with that group. And oftentimes, again, you don't necessarily have to sell it, not sell it, but you don't have to manage it or support it. You could offer it up and you could potentially get the recurring model of the software depending on usage. Install it and then you get that mailbox money.
Interesting. Yeah. And like what you're saying is to compete against the 800 number guys, right? The one size fits all. You can't be a one size fits all. You have to be unique in that regard. So before we go to a commercial break, and then I want to ask you some leadership questions. So we talked about wireless, we talked about connectivity, and then hey, that you don't need specialized skills. But if there's any gap, is that what somebody needs to do is just come to the table and say, here's my expertise, here's my history, here's what I have, here's what I don't have. And that way, then the vendor or the distributor is going to be able to know where to fill in those gaps. Is that, again, I'm thinking a lot from a point of sale provider standpoint, if they want to get into that, is that simply what it is that you talk about, not just the product and the end user, but talk about the VAR and where they might have gaps? Is that the guidance that you would give?
I would. That's well said. I would just say stress to the VARs where it comes to connectivity. A lot of people are like, oh, that's not for me. Don't be afraid to ask the question. Future-proof your solution. They might not be outside the 4 walls today with their point of sale in that example, but They could be try to go ahead and sell them a WAN-enabled device for, failover or emergent, if power goes out, hey, you could still have a connected device so you don't lose a sale, that kind of thing. Don't be afraid to ask for that future proofing, and then gather the information from a connectivity standpoint, and you can always send it over and we can get experts that are from Advantix or within ISG to be able to go in with you and make an offering and help you make it easy, especially from the second one until you get ready to go on your own. But I would just say the number one advice is don't be afraid to ask about connectivity, even if, it will even help you if you never even sell any kind of wireless infrastructure at all. It'll help you understand a little bit more about other devices that are utilizing their network as well.
Yeah, so I promised to go to commercial, but I do ask one more follow-up thing because something you said triggered two thoughts. So both came out of Retail Now. One was the focus group that we did with the RSPA board talking about the AI advisory group. And one thing they said is, before you tell people, here's exactly what you can do to implement an AI, you have to get them to, it says, dispel the idea, this isn't what we do, right? First, you have to have that mindset. And then also Dan Bratland from Cocard, who was just a recent guest on the Trusted Advisor podcast here, he said a lot of business owners, business leaders, solution providers, they get this figment of their mind of the biggest they can be, and they grow only to that, and they don't go beyond it because they just didn't think beyond that. That kind of sounds like it's what you're saying in terms of, right, there are all these other things you can do, but first step has to be, just because I've been a POS, provider, I can get into connectivity and wireless and Wi-Fi and things of that nature. Like, if I'm understanding correctly, that's what you're saying.
You are absolutely right. We have the resources, we are investing, and we can help our partners get to that next level, no matter what path they want to. But specifically from a connectivity perspective, I'm telling you, that is where I think a lot of our VARs need to focus a little bit more on, just because it showcases all of the devices within any organization are connected in some way. So just even asking the question will even help you understand more of the opportunity within whatever end customer or vertical you're going after. So anyway.
I said many years ago, Ansley, when I was in the magazine publishing industry, I'm a print guy, maybe a radio guy, not TV, and here we are on the RSPA YouTube channel.
Never say never, right? Never say never.
You never know what things are going to lead to. So speaking of RSPA, let's pause here to let our listeners and viewers know about the Retail Solution Providers Association. The RSPA is North America's largest community of retail technology, VARs, software providers, vendors, and distributors. To accelerate your success through an RSPA membership, email membership@gorspa.org. Also, thanks to these companies who support the RSPA community and make this podcast and video series possible. Our platinum sponsors, Blue Star. Our gold sponsors are Cocard, Epson, Heartland, and ScanSource. Finally, save the date for Inspire 2026, the Retail IT Channel's premier leadership conference. RSPA Inspire is set for February 1st through 4th on the island of Kauai, Hawaii. For more information, visit gorspa.org/inspire so you can experience networking nirvana. Great. So thanks for all the advice on Sticky Solutions. Let's talk about your leadership journey. And I want to focus in on what we've kind of alluded to, managing change. So over the past 25 years, right, technology certainly has changed. ScanSource has changed. The channels changed. Even the way that we work has changed, right? You and I are not recording this in a studio. We're just connected through our laptops and headsets and microphones and Teams. So what actions do you take as a leader to make sure you're staying at least one step ahead of change?
I would say the number one thing is always ask questions. I always say keep a pulse on the partner. And as any individual, moves up in, their careers and jobs, always make sure that you're talking to the partners and keeping that pulse on what is going on out in the industry from the people that you are selling to and servicing. I would definitely say, just constant learning. I always said never underestimate training. So keeping ahead of change, not only making sure that you're keeping yourself educated, but also training people on your team on what's going on. It's all right if you understand it, but if you're not communicating that out. So I would just say, and make sure that you are partnering to stay ahead of change. Like we said earlier, technology changes so quickly. You might think that you're the leader of the pack in some area this quarter. Well, then you look around and it's like, okay, well, that might be, last year's thing. Now let's try to do something else. And so partnering, you don't have to do everything on your own. Now, more than ever, it's more widely accepted, I think, to make sure that everyone is partnering, and it's okay, because at the end of the day, the end user expects more and demands more each and every day and quarter. So not one person can typically, now never say never, do everything, be everything for every one of their end customers. So partner there. That is what I would say. Make sure you keep an open mind, keep changing. I would just say never stay stagnant. Always know that you need to at least change a little bit to be able to stay relevant. So that's my advice there.
So I agree with that. I want to dig in a little bit, because one thing, I've been going to the NRF, National Retail Federation show, for many, many years. And when you would go to those vendor booths, oftentimes it was, our software does everything, our solution does everything. You don't have to talk to anybody else. You just come to us. We're the best. We're the all in one that you need. What I found at this year's show was people, vendors openly saying, oh, we're easy to partner with. We're happy to work with other people to provide the solution. I almost saw none of that in the years before, and then I saw a ton of it in 2025. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing, where it seems like before only a handful were open to partnering and the biggest of the big weren't. Now it seems like everybody realizes we cannot keep up with this rate of change on our own, and the easier we are to work with and partner with, that's how we're going to win. I guess, are you seeing it that same way? Is that one of the changes that you've experienced over time?
Absolutely. I mean, we have tons of supplier partnerships at ScanSource and many of our different divisions, and even having more open platforms within. It used to be very, this was my platform. You've got to conform to the way that we do it. Now It's much more open platform. A lot more third-party plugins are acceptable, because the end customer is demanding a lot more, and as software, quite frankly, is leading more in that customization. The devices and hardware are absolutely still extremely critical, but having more customized software and interfacing, it has absolutely caused that, I think, and making sure that you can't keep up with all the different options now. You just can't. You've got to be more open and being able to have that more seamless customer experience. It's all about CX at the customer. So, yeah.
Very good. So that was change management. Let's talk about some experiences, or an experience from early in your career that have shaped you as a leader. Can you share with us a learning experience or one story that's really stuck with you from early in your career and shaped you as a leader?
Well, I will say it's it's hard to pick just one, but I will say, as I'm definitely a people person. I love having teams, but I will say, as I have grown in the ranks over my career in the channel, one thing that I've always been told and have seen is always make it a safe space for people to ask questions. I know that one of my early managers said, hey, Ansley, as you are, even within ScanSource, I used to be an individual contributor, and I have developed and grown over my career. And it's like, once you get up to certain levels, you have to realize people might not tell you, I'm not saying the truth, but not tell you everything once you get to a certain level, because they're afraid they don't want to, disagree with you or whatnot. So always making sure that you have those open lines of communication, and that it's okay for your team to debate you or question you. Or oftentimes I'll say, all right, well, say try to find holes in what we're trying to do in this strategy, just so that we can have open dialogue and conversations. And I will say that that has been helpful over the career. I mentor a lot of different people inside this organization and outside in the technology community, and always making sure that from a leadership perspective, you are easy to talk to and you're open to new and different ideas. And by the way, to lead, you don't necessarily, I was a leader for many years without leading actual people from an HR perspective. You can actually be a extremely effective leader of leading projects and programs. So oftentimes when I'm leading younger folks that are just out of school, they're like, okay, I'm ready to, be a vice president and lead tons of people. It's like, you can be a leader now in the projects that you're doing. I mean, definitely strive for that if that's what you love to do, but that's not necessarily the end all be all from a leadership perspective. So anyway, open forum for communication and asking questions.
So thank you for that. I agree. What can you share? Like, what are some things that you do to make it a safe space for questions, or what are some things you don't do? Like, I think about a colleague I used to work with. She said she knew she had to leave her employer when she disagreed with the owner, and she said she had all the data, and he paused and said, "Which one of us has the MBA?" That's right. It's not you, it's me. We're going to go with mine. And she realized, like, oh my gosh. So, like, don't do things like that. Like, can you share with us, are there things that you consciously do or don't do to make sure that it's a more open environment and people feel safe asking you questions? Because you've been with ScanSource now for 25 years. So people be like, well, who am I to ask Ansley a question? So what are some things you do?
I will always say, I think that communication is key on what we are trying to solve for. So typically I'll say, hey, we're solving for this, or we're going after this particular opportunity. And I ask my team, how would you do it? Meaning, hey, I wouldn't necessarily say, we're going to have to do it this way to be able to hit this end result. First, asking the team, how would you go about solving for it? And then learning a lot around, in that. And then it's more of a collaborative way that we get to the end result. Or with that, it might have changed my mind on what I thought we should be doing to be able to get to that end result, I will say. But you will know your audience. I will stress to anybody, you know your management team better than I do, but sometimes there are certain ways that you can express ideas and offer up, ways of doing things in a way that isn't necessarily so direct or whatnot, and just making sure that you come back with facts. Oftentimes fact-based things of asking the partner or asking whoever and coming back with data really, really helps in trying to make sure that you are communicating, hey, why or not. I would just say keeping it open. And I always ask my team, like, how would you do it? This is my idea. Let's poke holes in it. And I mean, seriously, it's like, hey, what if we did the opposite? And that gets people talking too, especially if as a leader, you are saying, all right, let's try to debate this together.
Yes. So make sure that you sometimes are the last voice in the room filling in gaps as opposed to the first. Get people to share their plan first.
Correct.
All right. So my goal, Ansley, I know we have just a few minutes left, but I wanted to get to this question. My goal in 2025 is to be brave enough to ask this question to like every leader who appears on this podcast. So can you tell us about a mistake that you made as a leader and what you learned from it? It can be recent, it can be a long time ago, it can be a colossal disaster, or it could be something that fell short of your standards. Can you talk about, a mistake that you made and what you learned from it as a leader?
I would probably say being a leader, this one's hard too. Being a leader, especially of people is, to me, the team is my number one priority, making sure that I'm helping be there for them and guide them. I'm always like, I'm not your boss. I'm just one of the team members that, is helping guide. I would say early on in my management career, well, probably not early, it was probably midway through.
Okay.
In technology, we all know, probably most of the people that are listening to this are A-type personalities that love to learn and are just going fast paced. in building teams, making sure that you have diversity in skill sets. Not only, I'm not just talking about age, race, that kind of stuff. I'm talking about skill sets of the A-type personality versus maybe the overthinker being on there. Early on, I was just always like, okay, well, I get a lot of stuff done. Let me hire people that are more like me. And then I realized, oh my goodness, not having such a diverse enough team oftentimes doesn't, we're good at getting this done, but maybe we've left out over here really thinking through new additive things that we can do. So early on, that was a mistake because we were hitting numbers, but we were not necessarily doing some of the things that we should have been doing from the team that I was leading. And I realized, well, you know what? Because I don't have enough people saying, hold on, have we thought about this? Or have we thought about this? So I would just stress that was something that I realized probably middle of my management career that, hey, I need to just stop for a second and just try to hire more diverse skill sets of talents within. So I know that, looking at profile XTs and different types of Myers-Briggs and things like that, it really does help make sure that you have different thinking styles within your teams, because it really does help as a leader make sure that we're thinking through really good growth strategies.
Yeah, like you mentioned, those personality tests, the ones I'm most familiar with is DISC, and then the higher C is compliant. If you're
Yes.
very compliant and all you do is hire a bunch of other people who are compliant, everyone's just going to be like, yeah, so we should keep on the same path, right? Of course, because you don't have somebody in the room who's more of an innovator saying like, throw out what we're doing. And I can tell you, I'm just thinking back in my own career, that can be very challenging. I remember hiring somebody one time who was less of compliant, and they were more, everything that's been a rule for 10 years or more is obsolete. I'm like, the 10 Commandments seem like they've held up over time, right? But it was good to have him question, are you sure we should keep doing it that way? But if everybody was the same, rule follower, then you just get everybody who's nodding and keeping the same thing. Is that kind of what you're saying there, is make sure that you have folks who are whatever you are, making sure that there's somebody who's different from you or multiple people different, so you're getting getting a different set of eyes on it, a different set of brains on it.
And it's something that no one ever really told me to do. It was just, I realized it, and then it was like, okay, well, now what do? I still had a great team, but, just really thinking through that as people left or, building new teams, or as I moved around, just always looking to see, hey, if I have the luxury of being additive to a group, let's just make sure that we have that, those differences within the group.
Got it. We only have a couple minutes left, and I'm going to try to squeeze in 2 questions for you. So one is, you mentioned mentoring, that you do a lot of that. I'm sure you've been on the receiving end from a mentoring standpoint. What have those leaders, those mentors, what have they said to you or done that have had a lasting impact on you positively as a leader?
I will say, yes, I have been mentored by many different types of folks over the years, and still to this day, we can always learn. The number one piece of advice that one of my mentors gave me early on was the power of pause. And, we're high output, making sure we've got numbers to hit, things to do, way too many things on our list as leaders to get through in a given day or week or month. But that's okay. You need to be able to take the power and pause, think, reflect. Otherwise, you can't see the forest for the trees. You really can't see the strategy because of the tactics. And that is advice that I still use today. Anytime that leaders might get overwhelmed, I can always, myself, anytime I feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do, I pause for a minute, because you just really need to figure out what are the top things that really need to be done. It's like we're all very important in doing great things, but at the end of the day, what are the most important things? Focus on that, and the rest of it it's more of the opportunity noise, I call it. There's so many different opportunities that we can go after, and oftentimes that can be the downfall because it's so much noise. You've just got to focus, prioritize, and go all in on those 2 or 3 things as a leader, and you will be respected, I believe, by the teams that you are leading, because you can be the best leader from a textbook standpoint, but if you have no one that's wanting to follow you, then it's all for naught. So that was another great advice that another mentor gave me. You've got to be human. You've got to be able to have your one-on-ones with your team, but don't only talk about business, talk about life. Because business is oftentimes personal, because you spend so much time with the people that you work with, and making sure that you take that time, power of pause, and that communication flow, you should be golden.
Yeah, you're leading human beings. You are not leading employees. Boy, I really love. I wrote that down. Put a big asterisk next to the power of pause. I haven't heard it put that way before. That's super helpful. Last question for you. So, what would be your final leadership advice for our audience? So, let's say you're at the Greenville, South Carolina airport, where ScanSource is headquartered. You're walking from security to your gate. So that means you only have 3 minutes. That's one thing I love about the Greenville airport. It's a nice, compact airport. Love flying in and out of there. What advice would you give somebody in 2 or 3 minutes who says, hey, give me some top of mind leadership advice? What would you say to them, Ansley?
I would say leadership advice for me is try a positive attitude is key. Keep a positive attitude. You're going to have to problem solve, and not everything's going to be rosy, but keep that positive attitude. And in my career as a leader, anytime there has been any kinds of issues, it usually comes down to one of 2 things: communication or process. So if anything is going wrong, or even right, but mainly wrong, it's either you've had too much communication on the wrong thing or not enough, or the processes are not clear. They are broken. Someone doesn't understand it, and it can be fixed with communication or process. That would be, and that's less than a minute right there. I mean, positive attitude, communication, and process. Make sure those things are clearly defined. Everything should be good.
And we still have time to get a cup of coffee before we board at our gate. So
there we go. Now we can talk about fun stuff, like where you're going, where you flying to.
Exactly. Very good. I love that. That's really good in terms of communication and process. So, well, folks, that does it for this episode of The Trusted Advisor. If you enjoyed our discussion, be sure to subscribe to the RSPA YouTube channel and the Trusted Advisor podcast so you never miss an episode. Before we go, big thanks again to Ansley Hoke for sharing her wisdom with us today. Thanks also to RSPA Marketing Director Chris Arnold for his production work, Joseph McDade for our music, and last but not least, thanks so much to you for listening. Our goal at the RSPA is to accelerate the success of our members in the retail technology ecosystem by providing knowledge and connections. For more information, please visit our website at gorspa.org. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, everybody.